Welcome to Uncharted Entrepreneurship, your front row seat to daring stories from the boldest business trailblazers forging new paths across industries. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, armed with inside access, sitting down with partners, founders, and CEOs in the entrepreneurial world. Let's explore. Hi, welcome to this episode. Today I have Soundarya Balasubramani. And she's written the book Unshackled. She has the Unshackled community, Unshackled Club. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role. Pronounce your name correctly, like I've been trying to do for the last 10 minutes. And tell us one of your passions in life.
Okay. In that order, let's start with the name. My name is Soundarya Balasubramani. That's what you would say in India. But in America, I guess people say Soundarya Balasubramani, the way you just said it. My nickname is Pooja. So much easier to say. So just call me Pooja from now. And I guess I would call myself both a founder and a writer. In fact, I would say a writer and then a founder. I have been writing since I was 16 years old. I published my first blog post in 2014, I think. And I currently am the founder of Unshackled, which is both a book and an online membership community for high skilled immigrants in America to get talent visas. So it's a very specific problem that we're trying to solve. And I'd love to talk more about that if you're interested. And you asked about one of my passions. I guess besides writing, I absolutely love singing. And I've published a few clips of me singing with a guitar a few years ago, but I have given up since then in the last 2 years.
Oh, you have to keep going.
I
I
know.
would encourage you to always enjoy and pursue music.
Absolutely.
Um, Pooja, I think that's I'm going to call you Pooja from now on because I can actually say that. Before we get started, you have volunteered to be part of the Free Joke Project. I'm going to tell you a joke, and all you have to do is say, should the joke be free or should it be behind a paywall?
Okay.
So here we go. At my age, I'm getting good at multitasking. I can listen, ignore, and forget all at once.
Okay. I um I think the joke is so funny that it should be free.
Okay, good. That's great. That's perfect. We were both at the CEX conference, Content Entrepreneurs. I meant to meet up with you, but I got there very late. I apologize. I did see your talk, so it was very inspirational. Tell us a little bit. Do you have a 3-minute version of it that you can kind of give your background and tell us a little bit about how you got into it and something about that?
Sure. Yeah, why don't you time me and tell me if I'm close to my 3-minute mark? I'll do my best.
Okay.
Uh, like many international students from India, I came to the US for pursuing grad school in 2017. I went to Columbia University for a master's in management sciences. And like many students, I came with the goal of wanting to get into tech and be a product manager. So I, against all odds, did that. I joined Salesforce as a product manager. Except, I don't know if this is like most students, but within the first month, I felt like something was off. That once the high of getting this new job with such a high salary, once that high faded, I was really left with doing things that I didn't care about every single day. And I suspect a lot more people feel this sense of, I don't feel like this is meaningful. My job is meaningful, but they don't get a chance to do something about it because of many reasons. Fortunately, I had this kind of like passion that I have to quit my job and go out there on my own. And so, after a 2.5 year journey with immigration, I finally got a chance to quit my job end of October 2021. And since then, I've had the fortune of publishing Unshackled. Ironically, I ended up writing a book on immigration, even though that was not why I quit my job. I quit my job to build a startup in the education technology space, but that didn't happen. So right now, I'm focused on helping more immigrants get the sense of creative freedom to whatever extent that they can within the limits of the immigration system.
In your talk, you did speak about the fact that you had to go back to India at some point
Yeah.
because of the immigration system. So there's a little bit of irony. Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Yeah. Um, by the end of 2022, I was working on a part time H1B at a small startup, just part time. And the founder was very supportive. They let me do whatever I wanted outside the job in terms of researching for the book and so on. So when I got the grant to actually work on my book towards the end of 2022, I felt like, okay, now is the time to actually do something with this. So far I had this idea of writing a book, and I maybe I wrote one or two chapters, but that was it. I wanted to finish the book, but I knew I couldn't do that from within America because even if I finished the book, I would never be able to earn money from it. And I wanted to do much more than just finish a book. I wanted to set up a community for immigrants, and I wanted to do this full time. And so that was the reason I decided to leave the US and go back to India. I gave up the part time job, I gave up the H1B, and I just took a really long sabbatical and went back to India. And 9 months later, I still remember on September 12th, 2023, is when I got the approval for my O1. And then it took another 5, 6 weeks to finally get this stamping on my passport. I think it was like October 17th, 2023. That's when I got a stamp on my passport with the O1 talent visa as the CEO of my own company.
Yeah, and you also talked about that. Um, well, you gave a very specific emotion during your talk about when you got the text that says you didn't get approved, and I think everybody in the audience was. I could feel my own self just like, oh, I mean, I know what it's like to get that sort of message in the middle of something, and then you just feel deflated and you can't do anything more. But you found the energy to get over that. Do you feel maybe as an entrepreneur, there's something that makes us want to keep going even after there's some defeat?
Um, at the risk of sounding like I know about this too much, because even I'm a new age amateur entrepreneur. I got the O, just to get some context for your listeners, I got an O1 denied in 2022. That's what you're talking about. So I applied for the O1 twice. I got it approved the second time. The first time they denied it. And that process was horrible because it took 1.5 years of my life, $15,000, hundreds of hours. And most importantly, as I mentioned in the talk, there was a sense of hope that I had that was lost with that denial message that I got. um, you asked whether it makes us want to keep going. I almost think that most founders, their best ideas come from their worst moments, when they feel that sense of utter defeat, that I am now at rock bottom in this path of my life, and for whatever reason, which luck is also a part of the whole equation, um, we get that perseverance and motivation to keep moving forward. And thank God I did that, because I would not have written Unshackled if I didn't get the O1 denied. I mean, I might have written a short article on immigration and moved on from it. No way would I have spent the last 2 years dedicating my life to working on this project.
I do want to make a comment about that you are a new entrepreneur, and I don't think necessarily there's a difference between a new entrepreneur and an old entrepreneur. I think maybe the only difference is that I've made a lot of mistakes, and the only reason is that I have a lot more time to make all those mistakes. At some
Mm,
point, I would hope that I would learn from them, but maybe we do learn from them, and we don't remember the time that we did it twice.
right.
But tell us about how you when you got back and now you've started this now you have this community. Tell us kind of the underpinning of that and how you got rolling with both your book, your community, and there was a third part of it I can't remember right now during your talk, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
did. Yeah, go ahead.
There's actually four parts now. The third part is the newsletter that we send out. It's a free newsletter that goes out to 15,000 high skilled immigrants. And the fourth part is something that we're building right now. It is, to use the most famous word in 2024, an AI tool that we're building to help more O1 visa aspirants from STEM fields, especially. scientists, founders, engineers. So that's just the fourth part that we're building. So there's four kind of tentacles under the Unshackled umbrella right now. Um, you asked about the community specifically and the underpinnings of this is how the community started. When I launched a crowdfunding campaign before, I even started writing the book, we had to think of the different tiers we could add there. Like Kickstarter asks you for different tiers that you can add in there. One tier was a paperback of Unshackled, one was a hardcover copy. And then we were like, what do you do with the rest? What else can we add? And I thought, okay, let's add a community. I didn't even think that much back then. I just wanted to add a few tiers so it looked like this was a real project for people. And so that's how the community was incepted back then. But as I was going through the process myself for the O1 visa, I realized just how much guidance and information that I lacked. I didn't know other O1 recipients I could go talk to who are also CEOs and founders. I didn't know who are the trusted lawyers. I didn't know how do you improve your judging criteria because the O1 is given to people based on satisfying 3 out of 8 pillars that the US government has. And so there were so many unknowns in the process. And so when we launched the community, it was bare bones. But in the last 9 months since we've launched it, we've added a ton of resources, information, and mentors and lawyers in there who could help people and guide them through the O1 EB1 process.
In the community, and I'll ask some India specific questions because I used to have a development company, and so we had an office in India.
Yeah.
And one thing that we had to do, and not had to do, but we helped our developers when we had to travel, and they would travel to Europe, or they would travel to Central America, or they'd travel to the US. We'd have specific instructions on um, how you can eat, or what things are offensive to a certain cultures, what foods you can eat, and if you're from Gujarat, you're probably vegetarian. So how to find food to eat in going to countries, and we've sent people to Bolivia, so it's hard to get it's hard to find vegetarian options in some of these places, but you can always find rice and you can find tortillas. What I'm trying to get to is there a cultural aspect of helping them learn how to live in another culture? Because, and I'll make a generalization statement. I feel as though India is so big that not a lot of there's no reason necessarily to learn about another culture. Like there was no reason unless you're interested to learn about the Mexican culture. So there's no reason to go to Chipotle, where you could actually get a completely vegan meal that would be pleasing if you were to try it. Do you think, or do you have this sort of help when they're traveling and they're coming to America and they're worried about the food and all the other things?
That's an excellent question. We don't, and that's only because the people we're helping are already in the US and are acclimated to the culture here. These are people who stayed here for at least 3, 4 years, and only then they actually join the community. However, if we were to target people outside the US, in India, China, and other countries, I think what you said makes more sense. And what you're saying makes more sense for universities to do in terms of helping students acclimate better when they join the university. We had a few orientation sessions when I joined Columbia, but no session really taught us the things you just mentioned, which is, you know, the right accent that you have to use to say certain things, or how do you show courtesy? What does etiquette mean in America? Those things were just learned from making mistakes.
Yeah, and I hope I wasn't, I'm trying not to be stereotypical, but those are the things that I experience, and so I think that a lot of times it was always a challenge. And I think the food thing, I used to travel as well in Europe, and I was meet with my Indian friends, and sometimes they would bring along an entire suitcase full of food because they didn't know they could eat food.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways,
Indians do. I mean, I did that, and a lot of my friends did that because mo- I'm vegetarian. And so it was not easy to find food. And even if we found food, it's expensive here. Everything is expensive here. So we got, I think Indian students would bring 3 suitcases when they come to the US, and 2 of them will just be food, and one will be for clothes and other things.
All right, I feel like I got us sidetracked. So let's get back. So let's talk about Unshackled. Tell us a little bit about the community and the sort of what people get out of that community.
I think of it as people get a direction of the first 10 steps they have to take. I think the best ideal case scenario for joining the community is you are 2 years out of college, you didn't get chosen in the H-1B lottery, and now you have a year left, and you want to take a shot at the O-1 visa, which is a great alternative because it doesn't make you go through the lottery system. It is uncapped, and there's other benefits as well, including you can renew it forever. So, of course, the caveat is that it's meant for people at the top of their fields. So I think when people join at that stage, they're very motivated to make use of the resources in the community because they have a year left in the country. And so I would say, they come in, we have a course that people can take when they join that guides them through the talent visa, different talent visas out there, and what it takes to get them. And then we have a case study library of past recipients of these visas, and we have interviewed them in depth to create like an entire case study of how they put together their application, so you'll get to understand how other people did it. And then we have a discussion forum to ask questions. They can book free calls with past recipients who we call mentors, and whenever they're ready, they can get a free profile evaluation from our lawyers. We have 8 lawyers in the community. And so you can see how the it's like a digital home where you have all of these rooms with many resources, and we try our best to help them guide through. Okay, go to this room first. Once you're done with this room, go to the room 3, and then room 4, 5, 6. And so we've set up the onboarding process for people. And of course, we don't handhold them. I mean, we are looking for people who are motivated enough to come take, what we have and make use of it. There are other services out there. For example, you pay $20,000 and there's services that handhold you by saying, you pay us 20K, we will go and publish articles on your behalf. We don't do that. Rather, we say, here are all the things you can do. Here are all the people you can talk to. Now make use of this and start going and publishing articles and judging competitions.
So I know that there is different levels of visas that people can get, and a lot of the people that I've met are, say, Australians or Europeans, that you invest a certain amount of money and you get a visa. This is more of a academics, or not academics, but you're showing that you have a skill set, and you don't necessarily have to invest a lot of money in the US to get your visa.
No money. You don't have to invest. So the O1 cost, of course, you have to pay about 3,000 something dollars in just filing fees. But that's just the application fee for a visa. And then a lawyer fee could range anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000. That depends on the lawyer. But you're not needing to invest $1 million like the EB5 or $100,000 like the E1 or E2 visa, which, by the way, it doesn't apply to India. E1, E2 is a treaty trader visa, and it only applies to certain list of countries, and India and China are not on that list.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about your journey in how you have, well, you started with the Kickstarter, but now you have a regular, I shouldn't even say regular, you have a business that you're running. Tell us about some of the challenges that you've had now that you're up and running.
I think the biggest challenge has been keeping it sustainable. I mean, in terms of having a sales funnel that works. I'm new to sales, and I mean, I've experimented. So we haven't gotten to that stage yet. And so that's one thing I would say. And secondly, hiring. Um, I myself don't really take a salary. I mean, the kind of money that I was making at Salesforce, let's just say I'm not taking that salary from the company right now. So we have to be very careful. And like we hire people in both India, and I'm currently looking for a COO in the US who can come in and take over for me for all the operations. And so that has been challenging because when you find somebody in India, it is more affordable, but then they need to understand US immigration. And so there is so much knowledge transfer that I have to do with them and teach them. before I can get them on board. It takes months for that. And so we're kind of in this weird in between stage where, yeah, we have revenue and we're growing, but not fast enough to hire in the US. We can hire in India, but then we have to spend extra time with them. So I'm just figuring that out myself for now. So yeah, those are, I guess, two challenges.
Have you looked at? So I know we met at CEX, and it's or the content entrepreneurs. Did you find that, or did they find you?
Oh, good question. I went to CEX in 2022 as an
Hmm.
attendee, and someone I met back in 2022, Dave Hertig, nominated me to be a speaker this year. And Joe then went and saw my profile. He liked it, and he reached out saying, "Would you come back as a speaker?"
Did you have to join Dave's running group?
Running
Yeah,
group? Do you know Dave
yeah. Of
Hertig?
course, I know Dave. Everybody knows
Oh, I
Dave.
guess he's famous in the CEX circle. I didn't even know he had a
Yeah,
running
he
group.
makes everybody go running. Um, okay, so that's interesting. Have you? I mean, I feel as though there's a difference between this conference and a regular entrepreneurs conference. I feel like this one is geared towards solopreneurs, and it doesn't. Maybe there's not a lot of tools there for people that are trying to build a team, and I think the other part that is missing, or maybe not missing, but not part of the conference was some of the aspects around operations and some of the aspects around uh, sales and commerce. I think one part of what you're doing is you have to sell. I feel as though that commerce needs to be part of it, not necessarily a commerce with a team, but commerce as a business where either you're going to get a platform to sell it, or you're going to get a shopping cart or something. Almost everything is a shopping cart, but where are you finding now resources to help you get to those next levels,
When you say resources, you mean the people I'm
or other
hiring or something
mentors, other
else?
communities, and places, or is it?
Oh,
Are you? I like I'll say from my own experience, I spent 20 years just doing what I could do on my own without really reaching out to a lot of people because I'm not very smart. But um, there's an opportunity for you to get out and learn from others, to see what others have failed at. I think to go back to what the how to
Mm.
get resources to get to the next level.
I guess me hiring the COO and offering them both salary and equity in the company is one way to do that. It is to get somebody else who, I don't know, I can have as a partner, because I've been doing this solo for the last, since I started really. Um, and so that's one way. I do have Rajesh, who I talked about in my speech at the conference. I talk to him every single day. So he's definitely my closest confidant and mentor in the business. And I definitely I brainstorm specific questions with people in my network who are founders or can help me. I have a founder who runs a 100% company, so it's interesting to talk to him about the challenges he's facing and how he got to that level. He raised VC funding, so it's slightly different. I'm not looking to do that right now, and so I take help whenever I feel like it's warranted. Um, but honestly, and I've said this publicly, so I don't mind saying it on the podcast. I think I realized my strength is 0 to 1, and it is not 1 to 10. And neither do I want to focus on the 1 to 10, which is one of the main reasons I'm hiring someone right now who's done that before, who is passionate about doing that. Because we need someone like that for the business to grow. And so I realized my passion will always remain in writing, and I have an idea for a next book that I want to work on. So I'm making sure that the business thrives before I take a step back
Yeah,
and do
that's
that.
good. And I'm also the I guess in EOS they call it visionary, and then there's an integrator. So the visionary is kind of setting the goal, setting the direction, and the integrator makes sure everything gets done, because there is a grind to it, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it's hard to settle down and get everything done that you have to do when you just want to come up with the next idea.
Yeah, exactly. I I think for me personally, the hardest challenge is to persist, even when it feels like I want to jump to the next thing. But to persist in this and make it sustainable, make it outlast you, and then jump to the next thing, because I've done the mistake of jumping too
Yeah,
fast
there's a
before.
great concept called the shiny object. There's a book called Traction, and it's by Gina Wickman. There's a
Yeah.
thing called the shiny object where you get pulled in multiple directions, and certainly that's my problem where I can't stay focused long enough to finish anything. So, what does your future look like? What are the plans besides besides hiring a CEO? What are the next ideas that you're going to, if you can share them? What are your ideas now that you would like to add in to what you're already doing to enhance it?
Yeah. Um, well, there's two sides to this. On the customer side, the member side, I want to improve the experience for the users. Like the moment they come into the community, we want to take them to a very rigorous roadmap that is fully focused on just one thing, was to improve your profile to file an O1 or EB1 visa someday. Those are the two main talent visas. So I want to partner with other people in the industry. And interestingly, just in the last 1 year, 10 new companies have come up in the space of helping people file talent visas. So I'd love to closely partner with all the other players and seeing how we can integrate all of them into our community and improve the experience of the user. And secondly, we got a grant, or we are in the very, 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 very last stage of getting a grant from a foundation to build a free AI tool for O1 visa aspirants to start the process. There is nothing like it out there that I know of. So I'm very excited to launch that in the next 4 to 6 months. So these are the two main projects I would
Wow,
say.
the AI tool sounds very
Um,
intriguing.
yeah, I mean, imagine, like, I guess you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say too much about it right now
You
until we publish, but it'll help people for
you can
free
say it in
forever.
your TED talk after you've launched.
Thank you. I doubt if that's going to happen anytime soon, but
Well,
I
soon
appreciate
could
you.
be 6 months, right? So, but it could happen in 8.
Thank you. But yeah, these are the two main ideas I have in mind. And the third would be, I have interviews with 6 potential COOs today, tomorrow, and day after. So I'm excited to see what kind of talent there is out there.
Um, do you find it easier or difficult? I know you're in the San Francisco area. There must be a wealth of mentorship information and mentorship, especially for startups in that area. Or doesn't it matter where you are in the country?
Oh, I definitely think it matters. In San Francisco, every week there are dozens of events happening where you can go and meet other founders, mentors, advisors, and so on, and VCs. I definitely think that you can substitute by being in, say, Ohio, or where we were. Um, Personally, I don't seek out mentorship actively, but that's because, once again, I feel like within Rajesh and a few of my friends who are also founders, I have enough help that I need to tackle the problems that come my way. Of course, if I take on different or bigger problems, that's when I think, for example, the next book project, I'm trying to write a fiction novel. So I've never done that before. And there I do need a mentor who's done that before. So I need to go out there and seek the right
Yeah,
people.
I also have some aspirations. I'm in the new book that Joe has that Joe launched at the event called The Content Entrepreneur. So I have the e-commerce
Yeah.
chapter in there. So
Oh,
I would
amazing.
also at some point love to do that. And I think there's for me, I can say there's a little bit of not afraid, but if the unknown, especially as you get a little bit older, and if you're my age, I think maybe sometimes older people, the unknown scares them even more, even though they don't know what it is. But there's some people, and I'll put myself in that. We get into that comfort of maybe I don't want to go into the unknown, but I believe in
Mhm.
that. No matter how old you are, you should always be seeking learning and seeking something new, and you have to change. If you don't change, you'll be stagnant, and half the population would still be riding horses right now.
Um, so beautifully said. I think just hearing it from you right now, I feel more fired up to go into the unknown. So thanks so
Good.
much.
So we have a few minutes left, Pooja. Tell us tell us your biggest hope now this year, and then to close it out, we'll do a shameless plug about anything you want.
Done. Biggest hope this year. I mean, the first obvious answer that comes to my mind is to begin work on the novel, which would mean that Unshackled is in a place where I can do that, where I can take a step back. So that is definitely my biggest hope. But beyond that, I mean, I just hope I don't forget the privilege that I have right now. It's it's something that I've been feeling lately is that I'm probably one of the most privileged humans on the planet. And, I'm hoping you as well, because I am sitting at like the top of Maslow's hierarchy. I don't have to worry about my personal safety or food or water or shelter or even love and belonging. And so I hope I don't ever take that for granted. Like I wake up and the first thing I should be thinking about is, holy shit, I'm lucky that I woke up in my bed today in a safe place. So yeah, I just don't want that feeling to go away.
And shameless plug now. What would you like to plug today?
Shameless plug. I guess if anyone listening to this is an immigrant themselves or has a friend who's an immigrant who is in America right now or wants to come here, I would just say go to unshackled.club, and we have free things and paid things. So if you don't want to join the community, which I completely understand, then you can sign up for a free course we have, or go through the newsletter that we have. So there is something out there for anyone who wants to be an immigrant.
And I'll make
Just
sure I'll
that.
put all those links on the show notes. Pooja, it's been such a great pleasure to speak to you today. Your talk was incredible, and you have a great stage presence, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brent. Really appreciate it.
Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis LLC. Copyright 2023. You can find more award-winning content at contentbasis.io. And that wraps up the latest edition of Uncharted Entrepreneurship. Bold tales from entrepreneurial trailblazers. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, signing off after an incredible fireside chat with one of our intrepid trailblazing guests. Their first-hand perspective on conquering the unexplored wilds of business is just a taste of the rare wisdom you'll discover from pioneering entrepreneurs on this show. I also invite you to join me each week for insider commentary on the startup scene and digital marketing landscape on my Talk Commerce podcast. You can find Talk Commerce wherever you download podcasts or go to talk-commerce.com. I'd be grateful if you left a review and rating for Uncharted Entrepreneurship to help more bold founders find their way to game-changing insights that empower ventures to transform communities. This is your host, Brent Peterson, signing off for now. I'll see you around the virtual campfire next episode as we embark on another adventure into the great entrepreneurial unknown.